Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. We got one more day left in 2016. Some people say it's the worst year ever. Um, as for me, it's been an excellent year in many ways. There have been some setbacks, like losing a job, but there's always new jobs. So hopefully 2017 will be a better year for everybody. But today we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about my beautiful background screen. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about Ben Moskalensky's new book. We have Ben here. Hello,
Hello.
Ben. Hello.
Hello.
Ben happens to be, well, first and foremost, he happens to be my son. Ben is 12, and also Ben is somebody who has written a number of books. He published them on Amazon.com. He's got several books. We'll talk about that. And the latest big book he just published is called The Journal of the Survivor. So, Ben, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you started writing books?
Well, I am 12 years old. I kind of just picked up writing at the start. I kind of picked it up as a hobby, and it grew on me more and more. And after getting influence and influence from other authors, I just really got into it to the point where like now I'm really trying to do the best I can with my books.
Right. So, but what inspired you at considering your fairly young age to actually start writing, especially long books?
I'd have to say it was just very fun, very interesting. As for like several other authors inspired me, like Michael J. Sullivan, Brandon Sanderson, authors like that. I just had a really interesting time listening to their books, and I kind of wanted to try making my own as well, and I really wanted to put my effort and dedication into it.
Okay. This isn't your first book, right? So tell us a little bit about the first book that you wrote.
The first book that I wrote, which is also available on Amazon, is called Sarah's Stories. Um, it's similar in length to Journal of the Survivor, but it's a very different kind of story. It takes place in the 5th century, um, in a third-person perspective, unlike my other two more recent books, from the perspective of a dark elf named Sarah who's trying to find allies throughout the world of Daziel.
So it sounds like it's a fantasy book, obviously.
Yes, magic, dragons,
And
etc.
and this is Sarah Stories kind of a book for more of audience like your age kids, or is it also for adults? I mean, who do you think is a good audience for Sarah Stories?
Sarah's Stories is, I'd say, it as on a majority level, it would be best for kids. I like maybe read it with the family. Most of my books are like, actually all my books are like that, where it's like it could be read by either a kid, or a kid could read it with their family or listen to it with the family.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about the Journal of Survivor. So let's get back right to your latest book. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how this came about, why you wrote this thing, why it's so long. Just kind of describe a little bit what the Journal of Survivor is.
All right, so the Journal of the Survivor takes place. Okay, one thing about my books is they all take place in the same universe. So, like Sarah's Stories, my second book, The Official Guide from Mortal to Vampire, and the Journal of the Survivor, they all take place in the same universe. That's one of the things. So this takes place 18 centuries later in the 23rd century. This is after um, it's basically after a World War III like scenario. But the difference is nobody won this war, and it takes place from the perspective 42 years after the war ended.
Okay, don't give everything away. Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's it.
right.
I'm not going more.
Okay. And so I'm assuming that's also for the same kind of audience for, kids about your age, teenagers,
Yeah.
and then obviously adults who are into fantasy. Okay. Any particular reason why you went from, writing about the past to writing about the future? I mean, any particular reason for that, or just something you're interested in?
Um. Well, both actually. I mean, I am interested in both sci-fi and fantasy, but I also didn't want to be I also wanted to try more things. Like maybe at one point I'm going to try a more realistic book in like present days or something like that. Like maybe more recently. Um, and who knows? Maybe one day I'm going to write nonfiction. But I just kind of want to try different things and see what works for me and what I enjoy and what people enjoy the most.
Yeah, you can do a book about the election. There's enough of fantasy and
Are you kidding?
non-fantasy there. All
Yeah,
right. So
we don't need
how
any
long did
magic in
how
that.
long did exactly how long did it take you to write this book?
The Journal of the Survivor?
Yeah, Journal of Survivor is over 500 pages, right?
Yeah, actually over 600.
Over 600
Um,
pages. Okay.
it took me almost 6 months actually. I mean, it started on June 22nd and it ended. I don't remember the exact date, but I believe it was in some time in the teens of December.
Okay. And okay, we talked about what it's about. I'm just looking at my list of things I wanted to ask you. Um, so in terms of reading this book, when you wrote the book initially, when you write stuff like that, do you actually know how it's going to end? Or do you just kind of write things as things come up and you just keep writing them until, how do you know when the book is over is what I'm trying to find out.
Okay, so what I do is I start writing the book. Well, first I don't think of the ending. Like I never start thinking of the ending. I start thinking of the start. Then I make my way towards the ending. But I don't like always just move forward because then in theory, you could keep moving forward. I just think about certain events in the book, and when finally something seems like a good end for the book, I just make my way towards there. So like it's kind of like improv, kind of, but with a general script.
Right. And so at some point in time, you determine that, this is where it's going to end, and then you decide that you're going to actually stop it. Okay. All right. And what, in your opinion, is different about your book and other books compared to other people? In other words, obviously you write your own stuff. You're inspired by other people, but you're not copying other people. So what makes your books different in terms of if anybody was going to look at fantasy books or sci-fi books, in your opinion, why would they choose your book?
Um, well, there are a couple things that I try to do differently from most people. Um, like the first thing that I thought would be interesting was doing it from a journal's perspective. Because although I'm not obviously somebody who invented that, like there are many books in a first-person perspective, sci-fi books typically aren't like that. And I thought that would be interesting to do it from the perspective of the main character rather than the first two books, which were in third-person perspective. Um, and another thing that I tried to do was like I actually had tie-ins from real life events or things that would seem as realistic as possible, like from our current times. Like I actually had it so the universe is very similar, like World War II, and like the list of presidents, and all of that is the same. Like I didn't actually alter current history as we know it. I just kind of changed it in the future for this book.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. And then the books are right now, I know all of these books are available on Amazon, but tell us a little bit about the short book. The short book is about what, 30, 40 pages, something like that?
Yeah, it's in like the mid-30s page wise. It's called The Official Guide from Mortal to Vampire. Um, it was made, I guess you could consider it as a sequel to Sarah's Stories, even though it's really not. It's not like an adventure book or anything, such as Sarah's Stories or the Journal of the Survivor. It's more of a kind of mock informational text. It basically talks, because I found the whole vampire culture when I was writing about it in Sarah's Stories very interesting. So much so that I actually wanted to make an entire separate book talking about vampire culture and actually making up my own like vampire history and all that sort of stuff. And that is basically gone through in the official guide from Mortal to Vampire.
Okay, so who would be the audience for that book? And what kind of age group is it for? Do you think it's more for boys, more for girls, or adults, or what in your opinion is? I mean, obviously you wrote it, so you know who you think would be a good audience for that book.
Um, I never really try to do the whole is it better for the male or female gender, but as for kids, like I think most of my books should be directed towards kids, and it's probably most for the audience. Like if you enjoyed Sarah's stories, or if you wanted to read more of something similar to Sarah's stories, I would recommend reading this. This is kind of like an extension of it. Like it wouldn't make too much sense because there are some references. It would be kind of weird on its own. But like if you know about Sarah's stories and like have read Sarah's stories and know about the general culture, the official guide from mortal to vampire would be a good extension. Or if you just like to role play, I mean, this is just, this would be great for you because this gets all kinds of details about vampires.
Right. So we've got a short book, but you don't recommend reading it without reading Sarah's stories
No.
first, and then Sarah's stories. How many pages?
Sarah's stories, the number I remember exactly is 585.
Yeah. So basically, even though this book is short, you need to read a long book to go with it to really enjoy it the most. And all of these books are available on Amazon.com.
All
Just
three.
look it up under Moskalensky and you'll find them. And you can also look them up by name. And we'll put links to each book below the video on YouTube after we get this done. Also, I wanted to ask, so tell us a little bit about how you write these books. In other words, do you do it on paper? Do you do it on the computer? Obviously, they're on Amazon as digital versions only. And considering the fact that I'm myself a no paper guy, I'm glad they're digital, considering how huge they are. But when you write the stuff, tell us, how do you write the stuff? I mean, what do you think of something and then you write some notes, or what's your process of writing these books?
All right. This might, I don't know if this is surprising or not, but no part of any of my books has ever been jotted down on paper. Everything, if I have like a little, oh, like this is a cool note, I actually just stick it in a Keep, in Google Keep. Obviously, parts of the book, I originally make it like the draft version on Google Plus, so people can actually read the draft version for free, but only the draft version, because obviously I'm not going to give the book for free. And
well,
then what?
I said it doesn't have to be obvious. I mean, some people give away some books.
Yeah,
but you want to go to college. I get it. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And I stick, and then I copy paste it from the post, and then I make the edited version.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And then I convert the Google Doc to Microsoft Word, stick it in the Amazon processor, and just let it do its thing, and then of course put it out.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so do you usually write like one chapter at a time, or do you write sometimes less? I mean, I just wonder how the process goes in case people, because it's kind of interesting how people do these things. And
yeah, first off, I have never, maybe I think there was one chapter in the Journal of the Survivor where I was very short, but any of the major, even any of the more minor chapters, which are fairly long, like in the dozens of pages, I've never written them in one shot. I always write a certain part, because the Journal of the Survivor, I'm sure, here's a very, very minute spoiler that you literally find out in the first couple of paragraphs. The Journal of the Survivor, yes, there are chapters, but it's also split up into like day whatever, like actually how old the character is, which that's actually another interesting thing that I tried to do, like how many days later a certain event takes place, so you can actually get an accurate time gauge rather than just saying this happened 3 weeks before this at any point in the book. Mm-hmm. So I don't even do entire days at the time, but typically I write like a certain part of the day, and once that part of the day is done, or like that entire day, like whatever the events happen in that day, I take a break. Or if I don't put very much in for that particular day, then maybe I can do something else on the next day or something like that. Because those are like little stop points, if you would, because having because A, gives a more accurate time gauge in the book, and B, most of the chapters are very large in size.
Okay. Okay, and then let me ask you this. Are you planning to work on another book, or are you working on another book?
Yes, I am, and I'm also releasing the draft version of that online. It is called The Hawker's Memoirs. I actually, this time I already have slightly planned out the ending. It takes place, I'm sure I can give a little bit of backstory. because it takes place in 1694 during King William's War. A lot more details are listed in the book, of course, from the perspective of a French assassin, since it was one of the many wars that was between France and Britain.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so that's, do you know when that's supposed to be done, or like you were saying before, you don't know it's going to be done when it's going to be done type deal?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure when it's going to be done. It probably should be released, because I try to think of like, I don't typically just release books at any point. I try to release them during breaks. So like people have more of a time to get them, read them, etc. And gives me more time to spread the word, so it doesn't sit there for 3 months and then I spread the word about it. So it's probably going to be released. I can almost 100% guarantee that it will not be done this winter. But I can pretty much guarantee that it will be out either by summer or at least, at the earliest spring, at most summer, if everything goes according.
And so are you thinking of working on books, just continuously working on different books, just getting better and writing more and more books? Or is it something you think is just kind of like a passing fad for you, where you're interested now and then you're just going to kind of, in other words, how much do you like doing this? And do you think this is something that you're going to continue to do for who knows how long?
Well, I mean, obviously things can change, and who knows, maybe I'll change my mind. But currently, I am planning to keep like keep doing this. Yes.
Does it help you at all with your school in terms of like
immensely.
English
My
classes?
English grade shot up a ton.
Because you've been working on it. Is it that, or is it the other way around, where the fact that you're taking English?
I'd say it's both, actually. Because I'm not going to give away names, but I have a fantastic English teacher. And she's actually she's giving me a lot of writing advice, because she's an English teacher. But I've also had a lot of my own practice, which has helped me write essays, like persuasive essays. I've been doing better in areas like that, and she's noticed that my editing has been much improved. And like at more of a rate than other kids. I'm not like trying to gloat or anything, but like because I've had more practice with it.
Gotcha. In terms of, if you think about it from a perspective of other kids, let's say if other kids wanted to get into writing, their own books, not necessarily 600 pages, but their own books. Do you think, what would you recommend to them if somebody's just thinking about doing that, or they're afraid to do it because they think they're kids and they can't do it? What would your recommendation to them?
Well, my recommendation, first of all, if you're afraid, there's not really a reason to be afraid, because I'm definitely not the first person to ever do this. There are definitely kids who probably have much more success than me in writing so far. And there's not exactly some sort of punishment if you don't become a New York Times bestseller within the first 3 days. Obviously, if you don't want to do it, I hope nobody's forcing you to publish books on Amazon. So I don't see why you would be afraid. If you were afraid like of the lack of quality, and people would not like it, well, I still think you should put it out to learn from your experiences. Ask people on social media, ask your family and friends, like, what am I doing good and what can I improve on? And because that's the only way to do it. Because if you're constantly thinking you're the best, you're the best, you're the best, that there will never be any improvement. But if you constantly think I'm the worst, I'm the worst, I'm the worst, there will also never be any improvement, because you'll be too afraid to do anything else. And as for the second question, as what you should do, I personally decided to do sci-fi and fantasy for now, but you don't need to. You do whatever you think you'd be best at writing. I mean, it just comes a bit easier to me than something that would be more realistic. Something like less realistic would be is easier personally for me. But some kids are better with more real life scenarios. Like some kids like to dive into a lot of media outlets and do a lot of research for projects and stuff. And that's the perfect kind of thing to write books, like current books, like theory books or opinionated books or anything like that.
Okay. I'm going to quickly show here a picture of one of his favorite authors, Mr. Sanderson.
Yes. If any of you are looking for an absolutely stellar author, you need to check out Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
his Mistborn series, and we had a lot of fun listening to his Mistborn series, and also we listen on audio to his Reckoner series, which are also outstanding. The guy is an excellent, excellent author. Definitely recommend it for fantasy books. And if you want to get the Amazon books, just simply do a search on Amazon for these names, like Journal of the Survivor, or just Ben Moskalensky using Ben's name, and you will see these things will come up, and you can see right there that yeah, there's all three of them right there, and you can easily get them. If you don't have a Kindle device, you can easily get a Kindle reader on any tablet or phone or computer, and you can just load it right in there. And like we said before, these are pretty big books, except for the little book there in the middle. So it'll take a while to read them. And I guess, Ben, I'll let you finish with final words, few final words, and we'll wrap it up.
Yep. One quick note I'd like to add about Saros Stories and the Journal of the Survivor, the two main books that I've written so far. Both of those are free if you have Kindle Unlimited. If you've signed up for that, then they are 0.000 in both dollars and cents. As for final words, I just like to thank you all for watching this today. Well, as Oleg said, there's a bunch of links in the description below if you're on YouTube, above if you're looking on Google Plus. Whereas you can get all three of my books. And happy holidays, everybody, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican. I bet some of you are happier than others, depending on your political party right about now. But anyways, either way, hope you have a fantastic holiday. Hope whether or not you thought 2016 was good or bad, hopefully 2017 will be better for all of us. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ben. Good luck with your books and the future books. And thanks for talking to me today on the subject. And everybody have, like Ben said, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2017. Bye.